Let's talk about security and specifically Azure AD. Here's the history of security. Windows, they were loving Kerberos and then they moved to SAML and then they changed their mind, they loved Kerberos again. But now security is OAuth 2. And in SQL Server world, they originally loved SQL Auth and then they told us, hey, go 100% Windows Auth, and now we're kind of back to SQL Auth, especially if you're talking about SQL Server for Linux, the new SQL database they gave us. Here's the scenario for Jason, where we've got Active Directory on-premise, like almost all companies do. You know, when you think of one of Azure's golden jewels, it's the Azure AD, because you know all big companies have AD, or most of them, and Amazon's AWS doesn't really have an equivalent answer to this. Anyway, Jason's company is going to have potentially customers, hundreds of thousands of users that want to place orders, and they'll need to authenticate. He also has his staff, and they will need to administer stuff. There'll be, let's just say 100 employees. So he needs some authentication. Obviously, he wants to support OAuth 2, and he'd love to have social logins for those 100,000 customers there. All right. So he'd like to support Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I would tell him he should also support WeChat if he wants to think China. That would be much more intelligent, because in China they don't even have Facebook or Twitter, and everyone does everything in China with WeChat. Who has a WeChat account? Oh, 3 people. Okay. That's not too good, but that's some homework. Everyone go ahead and install it. Pass the mic.
Even like I'm working in the payments industry, so WeChat Pay is a big thing in Australia. So one should have a strategy for that as well. WeChat payments and all. Like
WeChat payment is a big thing in Australia.
Like
how much are you seeing?
Many people pay the Chinese visitors who come here. They pay via WeChat only. So
yes, okay.
So they can't think of anything else apart from WeChat.
That's right. So I was just in China for 3 months. Not once did I use a credit card. Not once did I use cash. I paid for myself and my daughter for the entire time. Every transaction was WeChat Pay or Alipay. Okay, that is how everything is done. And when you come to Australia, and I have some of the colleagues here, they know that I'm always looking out for this in Australia. And just random shops support WeChat Pay and Alipay. You can just see the little icons. It's definitely the way to go. I don't see why you'd want to build an order system that does not work in China. And so WeChat authentication to me is worth considering. I wouldn't do it without it. Anyway, options. What have you got? You can use Auth 0, you can use Identity Server, you can use Azure AD. Let's just talk about those. Auth 0 is pretty nice. We love using it. It's very simple. And then this one, let's have a quick look. It is certainly loved by our guys, especially when you're doing a very tiny site for a customer. I'll just, let's just look at, where's its pricing?
Right at the top.
Okay, let's click on pricing. And here is the important thing. 7,000 active users, unlimited logins, free. If you know you're going to have less than 7,000 users, put this in. It's super quick to put in. You could always change it later. It's not much effort. And you are good to go, nothing. But in my case, my contrived example, Jason he's expecting 100,000 users. Where's my 100,000? Where do we go?
You should be able to...
Developer or Developer Pro? Developer?
Yeah, developer, yep.
So how do I drag this? Oh, here we go. 5,000 users, 60, I've got more than 5. 10,000, 200. Oh, not too bad. The pricing's good. 20,000. I want a bit more than 20. I want 100 or 50. Okay, now I want 100,000. Oh, I'm not happy. Oh. Get in touch. Send us your financial records, please. Tell us how big a company, and we will work out how much we want to bill you. Yes, yes. All right. Anyway, I get very turned off if any company does that. Get in touch. What is that? Okay, marketing got in charge of pricing. Identity Server. this is really popular with many of our big companies. Identity Server is done by, well, it's made in Germany, so you know it's good quality. Identity Server is essentially, the only downside with Identity Server is you need to create a VM and put Identity Server on it and care and feed that VM. But the companies, big corporations, they like this solution. And pricing, it's essentially free, but if you want this admin UI, you pay for this, and I think it's, is it, depending where you are, but
1,000 users.
Yeah, £3,000. I wonder why they put it in pounds. Anyway, so that's kind of what you pay for that. But yeah, do you know the latest with Identity Server that's being included?
Yes, it's included as part of .NET Core. So it makes it a bit easier to get to use it, but the admin side of things is still quite expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For security, most people wouldn't consider that expensive, but obviously a little firm might not want to pay several $1,000s for that. But the people behind it are really, really smart dudes. You've also got Azure AD. And Azure AD is obviously from Microsoft, easy to understand. Now, Azure AD is just for those 100 employees. Where's my cost here? Whoa, look at where.
Oh, down.
You can see there's a lot of features here.
I think it's, there it is, yeah.
Here we go.
$1.37.
$1. So essentially $1 per user, so that's $130 a month or something. Yeah, so obviously for my 100 employees, that's not much. That's pretty understandable. Now, Azure B2C, this is cool. This is really cool. And I strongly believe that you should be considering this one. This is kind of instead of Auth0, and look at that. First 50 users.
50,000.
50,000 users, free. So now I only have to pay for my second 50,000. And what am I paying? Not even a cent per user. What's that? Can you do a calc on that?
Yeah, oh, it's...
Yeah, so 0.01. 0.01 times 50,000.
001
times 50,000 times.
$50.
Yeah, $76.
$76.
Okay, per month. So that's not exact pricing, but you've got internal multi-factor authentication and things, but it's very reasonable. Okay, for security solutions. Will was in the car just a few days ago when a client called me up at 7:30 in the morning. We're driving in, and he has a team in Pune, India. I think he's got a team of about 15. He is upset with the progress of what's been going on there. I think they've been developing for very, very many months and developed nothing to him. He's a bit stressed out. Ask him what he's developing. Tell me what you remember of the call.
I remember hearing that we're asking them about which identity providers they're using, and if they've heard of Azure AD B2C, and they've heard of it,
yes.
heard of Auth0, heard of Identity Server, but decided to write their own. They've implemented their own bcrypt encryption schema, storing their own user database, managing their own user database, and we're cringing because, this is not something you consider lightly anymore. That's a very heavy task to implement with a lot of issues that could affect your business negatively, so we were very concerned.
Yeah, felt sorry for the developers actually having to do this, because felt sorry for him too, because this is some of the early stuff that's being developed. It's taking a lot of resources. It's not easy to do. He's writing stuff that is risky. He will eventually end up, a good chance, eventually he'll end up in Troy Hunt's database, have I been pawned? There will be a breach. When I travel to China and I try to log in first time, it goes, what the hell? What are you doing here? You authenticate this way, we'll send you an SMS here, we'll send you an email. Now, Microsoft didn't write special code when you arrive in China, do that. They they have machine learning that checks, are you logging in like normal or are you doing something weird? He would have to also, which he probably won't, implement a whole lot of other stuff. He doesn't have the resources to keep up with all that stuff. It doesn't make sense to do that type of stuff. Anyway, these are the two I'd go with, Azure AD and Azure B2C. Azure AD is the one that you should use for your employees, multi-factor authentication. It's very rich and it's very easy to integrate. So just to use this Azure AD Connect, these are the screenshots when we did it at SSW. You come in here, here's the app, you connect to your Azure AD, you enter your authentication, you press next. Then you connect to your domain services, you enter your details, and then you press next. You read that, and then you press install, and done, and that's finished. Now, let's move on to the public, what the public gets. Those 100,000 users, well, this is an example screen. I would call this, do you remember when we had DLL hell? Now we have login hell. And what's the problem with this screen? Too many options, yes, I would say too many options. At least they've catered for everyone. Please, no one. What's the other problem? Doesn't support China. Anyone listening? It's got to have WeChat. Get rid of all this stuff. Have one of those and have WeChat. That's the way to go. And I should say, one of the things that I don't like about Auth0, just personally, is it doesn't have WeChat, where Azure's B2C does have WeChat. All right? That's just an Adam thing. I know most of my clients I talk to look at me like I've got two heads, but I would be considering it. So let's go through this, and well, I'll just tell you what you do. Basically, you create a resource, and then you select authentication. So the screenshots are a bit small, so you just have to trust me.
Right.
The reason I'm not doing the demo is it takes a long time to do this. And we come through here, we choose all settings, we come here, we choose the identity provider, and we would, you can use email, you could also add Facebook, you could also go and add other ones, and the only thing I really care about is it has WeChat down here. I know it's tiny. You can use Microsoft account, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, but WeChat is the way. They also have QQ and Weibo and China and stuff. But you can see they're definitely supporting the Chinese environment where most people aren't. All right. I would wish that they put nice little icons there like they did in other places. That would be nice. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. So in summary, I would choose for Jason, tell him to use Azure AD and use Azure B2C. Security is something you shouldn't be writing your own code. You should be keeping your code very skinny and ripping out any authentication homegrown brew that you've got in there. I've got to tell you, security is very hard, and the information contained in this PowerPoint is for general guidance on matters of interest only. The application impact of security laws and the opinionated security experts in the industry vary widely based on the specific facts involved. While SSW has made every attempt to ensure the information contained in this PowerPoint has been obtained from reliable sources, don't ask me, ask Troy Hunt. Okay? He has a lot more expertise on this side. All right, so the verdict. The verdict is, this is the CYA award. This is the Cover Your Ass award. If anything goes wrong and you're using Azure Security or Identity Server or one of those guys, you can't get sacked. If you roll your own and you get breached, you can easily get sacked. And as you get higher up the chain and higher up management and you're responsible for something like that, it's pretty bad. All right, so make your security code skinny. I did a search on Donald Trump's tweets and I found this. I've never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke. I did make that tweet up. That's a real tweet that I got. Okay. Okay.
So we're still running AD on a on-premises server, and I've been told by one or two people, moving across purely to the cloud for AD can be a little bit slow, a bit laggy, and so they've suggested a hybrid setup. What do you think?
We don't notice it. It's not a common thing I've ever heard.
No.
Yes, using the internet can be a bit slow, laggy, but we're talking milliseconds.
Yeah,
it's not one.
No issues.
I got a lot of issues, and that's not one of them. Yeah, I would definitely be talking to lots of other companies that are using it. It's not a, of course we can spread a lot of fear, uncertainty and doubt to do with, moving security to the cloud. I remember, the guy that set up Xero, his name's Rod Drury. He was also a Microsoft regional director. I was in New Zealand with him, and he's saying he had an exchange company and was going to start this new company, and it was going to be accounting online. And I remember telling him, Rod, that's crazy. They use the cloud for everything except accounts. Nobody's going to do their accounts online. That's not a good idea. I can't imagine I'd use your stuff. People use MYOB or they use one of the other enterprise ones. They're not going to put that stuff on the cloud. I would be doing something else if I was you. And he said, I'm going to get a domain, like a really short domain. And I said, what is it? He said, it's Xero. Z-E-R-O? He said, no, X-E-R-O. And I said, no, nobody will remember that. And I said, how much is that going to cost? He said, I already bought it, $50,000. $50,000 US. And back then, US had a difference with Aussie dollars by a bit. And I said, oh my God, that is a terrible waste of money. Yes. But anyway, I was an idiot, so total idiot. I could not see that one, and I thought I knew it. I thought that would never work. Anyway.
I didn't get. Is it possible to integrate other social networks to Azure AD when listed in the settings?
Can I just check? Are you getting Azure AD confused with Azure B2C? Because Azure AD is the one inside for the employees, and Azure AD B2C is the social side of it.
B2C.
B2C, okay. So,
Yes. So the question is, can you integrate other social networks as authentication using Azure AD B2C? Yeah, and the answer is yes, you can. Yes, ones that aren't listed on the UI, you can implement your own. It supports Open ID Connect, so you can implement any custom provider you like.
Okay, thank you.